Good morning. Okay. It's in the dishwasher. Okay. Could not remember what I did with.
It says dry, but can I open it?
No. You don't need it, Lincoln. It's fine. Older kids home today. Okay. I gotta turn on my iPad and we'll be ready to go. Okay. I might need to hold this in my hand today. Let me try and... Okay. So, today is the VanDyke stitch. It's a lot of weaving and maneuvering, so please don't feel frustrated. It will take you some time to feel comfortable with it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work this way. Okay, so with the VanDyke stitch, we're gonna go draw a line. Let's see. I just need something to draw straight. Hang on. I want to keep that same angle. Okay. So this is the space we're going to use. We're also going to need a little guide in the middle. And okay, so we've got our 2 on the edge and then we've got 2 in the center. Oh, I'm a little bit off camera. Okay. Let me just actually move this to where I want it, and then I will move my camera to where it can be seen. Then I can work. I'm comfortable. Okay. So we're using our pearl cotton today. If you're using just regular embroidery thread, I would use, I don't know. I could never get it to look quite right with regular embroidery thread. So maybe go 3 or 4 strands. And then you'll want to make sure you keep it twisted so that the strands stay together, because this pearl thread will stay twisted so that it doesn't get in the way when we start weaving. Okay, interrupt me if you have questions when we get stitching. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna get a piece of thread that's the length of my arm. And start with that. This is a little bit harder to get into a needle because it's a little thicker. And then to pull it through, it's gonna untwist it a little. So I try not to get too long of a piece because I don't want to have to make too long of a tail. Okay, so we're gonna do the same as usual. Tie a little knot at the end. As a very loud truck. Okay, so we're gonna work this way. All right, here we go. I'm a little nervous to teach this, so here we go. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go up on one side. We're gonna go down on the second line. We're gonna go up in this first middle line, and we want this loop to go down, okay? So we want our needle to come up above it. And then we're gonna go cross over it and go down here. Okay, so that's gonna be our first stitch. So then we've got like one below and one above. Okay, and then we're gonna start back over here. We're always gonna start on this side and end on this side. So now we're gonna start weaving. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go under this side, and then we're gonna go up. So we're gonna go down and then up. And it kind of creates like this little knot. And then we're gonna go back down on this side. Okay, and that's what we're gonna do the whole time. So we're gonna go up on this side. We're gonna go in between these two stitches. We just want to grab just the last one we did. So we're gonna go here and here. So we're just grabbing just those two that we just stitched to kind of create that knot. And then we're gonna go down over here. So depending on how you kind of pull these, I'm gonna try and keep my knots like all the way down here so that they stay consistent. So if you notice that your knots are moving over a little bit, then kind of just watch where you're pulling. I'll show you on this one. So we're gonna come up on this side. We're gonna go between these two and go down here. And then we're gonna come and grab this one. Okay. So when I pull, sorry, this keeps getting caught on the edge. So we want to kind of pull this knot over a little bit before we come and end it. So then it stays on this line that we want it on. And we're just gonna do that all the way down. Depending on what thread you are using, like the 5 or the 8, the 5 is the thickest, the 8 is a little thinner, and then I know somebody was using 12. So like I'm not gonna have quite as many stitches because I'm using the 5. The person that's using 12 is gonna have to do more stitches in here because their thread is thinner, okay? Do this slowly. If you have a needle that is not super pointy, like this one's really sharp, if you have one that's a little bit more blunt, that would be good to use. When you're weaving through here, you just want to make sure you're not snagging any threads. So if you've noticed, I kind of get close to over here and like kind of grab those a little bit. So just be careful that you're not pulling any threads from somewhere. So I'm going in pretty slow and kind of pushing my needle through and then making sure I don't have anything that I've snagged before I'm pulling it. Oh, see, I went over 2. Hold on. No, wait, that's right. Sorry. This was really easy to do on Ada because of the grid setup. I just used all those holes. So that was fun when I did it last time. So this is it just takes time because you kind of have to work slow to make sure you keep your stitches nice. But then look at this cute little roof we have. So I did it this way because I thought it'd be easier to work in this space, like to go this way. But if you want to try going like straight down, you can do it across this way. I just thought it'd be easier to have this space to teach you. So if you want to do it in a different direction, please feel free. My line's getting a little wonky, so I want to move it over a little bit. How are we feeling about this? I know it looks a little intimidating, but once you do some rows, I think you'll find that it's fun. But do you see why like the regular embroidery thread is going to be a little bit more difficult to work with? Because once you start weaving, like these will start to come untwisted a little bit. So it's a little easier to like get your needle through there. So I didn't want to overwhelm anyone. So the only part we're doing this VanDyke stitch is just in this triangle. Oh, she says, "You're the best teacher ever." Thank you. That is a very sweet compliment. But I thought about doing it for like all of the roof, and then I thought that might be a little bit much. So and I just want to remind you that this does not need to be perfect. Like my line is not even straight. Look, it's a little bit crooked. It's a haunted house. It's falling apart. It's okay if things are not straight. This is a great way to practice. And I feel like once it's done, like you can kind of go back and like push these around a little bit. Like already that's a little straighter. Just be careful when you're doing it if you're using your sharp needle like I just did. This ended up being a little, I had thought that I had picked lighter colors for my roof, so I'm sorry that's a little dark and this is a little light, but it is what it is. I'm pushing on the back of my needle so I don't snag. Oh yeah, you could do that. So you could like push it through this way if you don't have a blunt needle. You're less likely to snag because you don't have that sharp part. Yep, that's totally doable. I am not super worried about snagging, so I am just gonna keep going with my sharp needle first until I snag something and then I'm like, dang it. Anyways, I haven't decided if there's another, I mean, it's a good filler stitch, but I'm trying to decide what else we could even use it for because it's kind of unique the way it looks. So I haven't decided if I can use it for anything else yet, but I used it on a roof for a house portrait I did and I just fell in love, and I thought, yes, I need to teach this stitch to people because it's so fun. Dun dun. I didn't finish, by the way, on the bottom. I have been so crazy busy during the days. I don't know what is going on, but I am like struggling to get my stitching time in. But it's the weekend and my husband and kids are going to Montana without me. So I am going to catch up this weekend and get some of my personal projects out of the way. Start fresh on Monday. I'm planning on hopefully getting through this whole roof during the live because once we get like over here, it's going to be, well, maybe not hard. I don't know. Like it's a little bit of a different shape. If I'm ever stitching and move things so that they're not on camera quite right, please feel free to mention it in the comments so I can move things. I try to pay attention, but I want you to have the best view possible. I am super excited with how this is turning out though. I think once we get our details on there, ooh. So if you run out of thread while you're working on a row, make sure you like end it over here, tie it off, and then you can just start again on the other side. As I'm getting to the end of this. Ouch. Come on. Oh, see, I snagged a little bit right there. It's like pulling the thread above it. Okay, we're getting to the end. And you kind of need a little bit of extra thread to work with. Okay, let me tie this off. And look how fun it is on the back. Isn't that fun? I like it. I think the back sometimes is just as interesting as the front. I like to see what it'll do to the back side. I'm not really worried about what the backs of mine look like. They're kind of messy, which I just don't worry about, so. If that is important to you, be my guest. I personally am not concerned about the back. Getting some more thread on there. Okay. So we can finish this little section. Okay, so as we're gonna have to start moving our first stitch over a little bit, but we wanna keep our knot there. So we're gonna have to maneuver things a little bit. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep on this like line right, this roof line right here. Whoop. While keeping my knot where it's at. So when I pull this through, I wanna make sure I keep my knot here and I don't pull it too far over. So then that line stays straight. Okay, so this one is gonna be really close. Okay. And then I'm just gonna go through and push all of these so that they're a little bit straighter. And then I'm just gonna do one stitch just to finish off the roof. There's just a little bit of a gap right here. So I'm just gonna do just one straight little stitch just to kind of cover that up. So if you go through and you see some spots that are a little bit more open than you like, you can go in and just do, like this got off to kind of a weird start. So I'm gonna come up here and just do like just a stitch from there and then just sneak it in under here just to fill in that gap. So then it'll just look like that. So if you have some gaps, you can go in and fill them in like that. This side, see, it's a little bit tighter and this one is a little bit looser. So if you need to do that, don't feel bad because I have, like I could come in here too and put in another one. No one's gonna be counting to make sure both sides are exactly the same amount of like threads on each side. So don't feel like you're gonna mess things up, okay? That'll just make it look a little fuller. Okay, my friends, that is our first one. So I was thinking 3. So we wanna kinda keep these about the same distance apart. So I'm just gonna do another line here. And then we'll do this whole section as one as well. So our 2 in the middle that we want to work on. Okay. So we're gonna use these same holes so that they line up together. Cool stitch. Yeah, it's a really fun one. I really like it. I just think that it's unique and fun. So we will use these stitches, these holes, so that then they just line up together. So we're gonna come over here and do the same thing. So this is how we start again. We're gonna go down in the second middle, leave our loop down here at the bottom, come up in the first, middle, and then go down on the side. Okay? Then we'll just go like we were before. Down. This first one I always feel like I need to go like down and up, and I'm not really. That first one's kind of messy. It's okay though, we'll pull it straight when we do this next one. Okay, so we're gonna go and weave down and back up. We're closer to these stitches now, so it's gonna be a little, I need to turn this a little bit more. Kind of a funny angle, it's kind of pulling funny, but I think once we get more stitches in there it'll be fine. It's gonna be a little awkward until you get some stitches down. Just because then it'll start to lay how it's supposed to and you don't have to like pull it so much. I moved this one down a little bit and I'll just plan on putting a stitch in here just because it's at such a steep angle. It's just starting to kind of pull funny. So I'm gonna try and straighten that a little bit by doing these ones closer together over here and these ones a little bit wider. This one's looking a little funny already. Okay, I feel like that's the right angle now. I feel like that's about how many, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6. I feel like the first few are kind of hard to like get them in there how you want them. And then after that, it will start to get a little easier. So the other thing, if I'm going around other stitches, sometimes I'll just push from the back and push up where my needle is coming from. So I'm pushing right here because then my needle will go up over those stitches rather than trying to not snag anything. Just a little bit of support from the back. Yeah, there's a lot of gaps in this one. That's okay. I'm excited. I love how it's turning out. I'm excited to see if you have a different size thread, how different they'll look. So if you post about it, I'd love to hear what size thread you're using, like the 3, 5, 8, 12 or whatever. Just to compare, just because I've only used 5. 5 is what's at my craft store. So if you have something else other than 5, let me know so I can see it. And we did a lot of stitching this week. Next week will not be quite so crazy because we're going to start doing like windows and trim and like some vines growing up the sides. So it won't be quite so intense. It'll be a little bit more laid back. But we had to get this base down, and I'm sorry, but that takes the longest. We might even have to keep this angle, I might have to do 4 over here. And like this little tiny corner, just do like some straight stitches just to fill it in. Because we want to keep that Same angle. Because if we go here, it'll be like funky. Sorry, I was just looking, planning ahead. I think that's what happened here too, is the angle was not quite the same. That's why I had to like even it out a little bit so that it was the same as this first one. Well, this one is super crooked. Uh-oh. My thread came out of my needle. Okay, once I get like crazy, like the ends like that, I just trim it off before I put it back in a needle. Because that's annoying to try and put through a needle. Okay. That noisy truck is back. They must live near me. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. So I'm over here a little bit. I am gonna have to do some serious straightening. That knot is out of control. Wasn't paying close enough attention this time. Okay, so that's the end of the knot. So I'm just gonna do a couple of stitches right here just to fill in that space that's left. And then I'll tie this off and straighten my line. Look how crooked this is. Oh my gosh, that is funny. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I'm gonna push this over first. And then I'll kind of move this bottom part. Oop! Careful with your needle. Whoop. I'm gonna snag something if I'm not careful. It's like this one is like a huge knot. Okay. I'm gonna call that good. Yeah? Let's see if I can. There, that's better. It's a little better. Okay, so we're gonna do one more here because I want to try and keep that same. So we'll fill this in just like with some satin stitches. Okay. We're almost done. I am dying to hear what you think about this stitch. Love it, hate it, super nervous, super excited. This is not going in my needle. Some love. Okay. Love, yay. Okay. So, same as before. Love it. Yay, more love in it. We're loving it. Does McDonald's still use that tagline? I'm loving it. That was the tagline when I worked there. When I was 16. Okay. There's a knot right there from the roof. Okay. Go down. This first one is like right by the roof. All the stitches in the way. This one, as soon as we start to get comfortable with how they're laying, it's gonna be over. I've got quite the gap there, so I'm gonna go back when I'm done and fill it in. Yeah, that is a funny spot for that. Come on. There we go. Anyone doing anything fun this weekend? I'm planning on stitching while my family's away. Just gonna get some quiet stitching time. Order some takeout. Hang out in the quiet. I really like YA books, and Kira Cass, she wrote the Selection series, and she has the second book to, I read one of her books a year or two ago. I don't remember when it came out, but anyways, I've been waiting. The second book came out in June, and I've had it on hold at the library. It came out, I finally got it off hold yesterday. So I'm going to listen to that this weekend. I'm at camp with my mom, laugh out loud. I like taking stitching camping though. It's so relaxing to sit outside and like just be quiet. Like the house doesn't need to be cleaned. The dishes, I mean, there's dishes to do, but I just feel like it's so relaxing. Okay, let's straighten this a little bit. It's not too bad. Okay, so I'm gonna come up here and just fill this in right here. There is a knot right there. Hang on. Pull that out of the way. Go down. I'm a little almost off camera. Fill that in, and then we're just gonna come over here and just keep that same angle and just fill in that space. And that's it. One more. I think. That's it. We'll kind of clean up this line a little bit when we're gonna do a basket weave in here. So I might mess with this a little bit more. We'll see. But anyways, that is the VanDyke stitch. And it is cute and I like it. I'm gonna come back over here and fill in a couple more spots. Feel free to do the same. Okay. I will be around this weekend, so if you have questions, message me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Have fun, get caught up. I'm gonna work on this down here because I didn't do it, and I haven't done my last cinder block over here either. So anyways, that's what I'm gonna work on, but you guys get caught up as well. All right, I want to see your roofs as soon as you're done, so message me and let me see them. Have a good weekend, and I will see you on Monday, same time, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Okay, bye.